Hello and welcome to Company of Heroes 2. At the moment it's in beta phase, so all the things that I'm going to be saying, or any criticisms I'm saying, will probably be fixed in the near future, as it still has just under 2 months before the game is fully released. Now, if you've played Company of Heroes 1 before, then you should be familiar. Everything's the same base building strategy where you only have one area where you can build. You still have to capture all the objectives. You can even upgrade objectives with ammunition and fuel to give yourself little extra bonuses, and it makes it harder for it to be recaptured. Although they have seemed to have scaled back the amount of fuel, ammunition on the map. It seems there's only 2 per map, but with the maps there's only about 6 out at the moment, and I'm sure there's going to be more out. Now to the new features of the game. They've brought in a new weather condition, so this one is a snow map, and as infantry walk over the snow, they, if it's deep snow, they tend to walk a lot slower. It also causes them to be a little bit more vulnerable to enemy fire. There's also blizzards and snowstorms, and when that happens, there's these little fires that it has like a little, I'm not too sure if you can see that too well, it's a little orange line, and if the infantry is within that, they won't freeze to death, but if they're outside for too long, then they'll start to, they have like a little temperature gauge that goes down. It doesn't really show it, and it'll start showing this little blue skull, and that means that they're freezing to death. And once they start freezing to death, I think you've got about 20 seconds before the first one starts dying, and then it's every 20 seconds after that. But if you retreat, they stop freezing to death, and you can continue doing whatever you want. What else is there? Snipers, they seem to be immune to the temperature, but that's probably because that you kind of keep them outside, so it's a kind of good thing with that. I think they're the only infantry unit that is exempt from freezing. As you can see here, that's the temperature gauge I was talking about. I'm not too sure why they're getting it now, because it's usually during blizzards that's when it really starts to get bad. So they've introduced a new team. It's the Russian side of the game, so it's focusing mainly or only on the Eastern Front, which is pretty cool because there's the Battle of Stalingrad and all those awesome battles that happen there that history seems to ignore a lot. The only downside is there isn't any Western teams, so if you've played the previous games and you love the British and the Americans, well, you can't play as them. The only downside is that they were the main 2 teams that I played as, and I knew the most, so playing this is kind of hard to get used to, because I'm playing as the Germans at the moment, and all I know about the Germans is that their tanks are amazingly good. And that's something that I should probably get, some tanks. Another thing is, as you can see, this lake is frozen, so you can walk over it. When it comes to having tanks on it, if you use artillery on the river while there's tanks, it'll break the ice and the tanks will fall in there, along with any infantry units that are on the side. This is a really awesome feature that they brought in, and it brings a new level of tactics and planning. If you played the first one, you'd be familiar with booby-trapping a bridge and waiting for the enemy units to go over the bridge and then detonating the bridge and just killing everything that was on there at the time. It's kind of like that. So yeah, this is the second base I'm building here. It gives you some light tanks and some better infantry. I actually haven't played as the Russians very much. From what I've seen, they have stronger infantry but weaker tanks, whereas the Germans have weaker infantry and stronger tanks. Although some of the, individually, the German soldiers are better, you just get less of them. Like with their infantry squad, they get 6, you only get 4, and I think they're starting, their construction team has 6, and you only get 4, so yeah, they seem to get more. The same goes with snipers as well, which is annoying, because they will get 2 snipers, and you'll only get 1, and if you've played the other game, you'll be familiar with how annoying snipers can really be. So I'm going to buy him. He's a Panzer Grenadier, and he can get upgraded with Panzer Shreks, and basically he becomes an anti-tank unit and also an anti-infantry. I'm also going to upgrade this guy with flamethrowers and shock him into the front line, because flamethrowers are amazing against infantry. And you'll also be familiar with escalating to different battle phases in order to get better equipment and weapons, and even tanks. There's also the generals. At the moment there's 3. You can actually unlock more and customize them by looks of things. You can also unlock little perks that you can give yourself in multiplayer. Such things as tanks can be built 10% faster, or have 10% better vision for infantry, and all sorts of things like that, that just give a nice little perk to the game.
Enemy troops attacking!
So I've almost captured this side. When I start getting tanks, it'll be a lot better. I'm going to buy this half track because I'm under the assumption that you can actually upgrade it with a flamethrower as well, and this will make it awfully useful. There's 2 game modes at the moment. There's the Annihilation, which is what I'm playing now, and there's the ticket point system, where you have 3 objectives you have to capture, and you start off with 500 tickets, and once it goes down to once you get the enemies down to 0, you win, or if they get, vice versa. So my poor friend's half track is getting completely demolished, so great figures, flamethrower units get in. In terms of its performance online, there seems to be a little lag, but that could just be because they're doing a stress test of the game at the moment, and they're trying to see how much stress you can really put on this game online before the servers kind of back off. And so there's a little bit of lag, and I've had a few games where I've been absolutely kicking ass and then just disconnected. Another weird thing is, even the flamethrower unit, he's chucking fire everywhere at the moment, but he's still losing temperature. It just seems like a weird thing not to program into the game, that a person wielding a massive flamethrower is getting cold. But I don't know, it's just a little nitpick, which I'm sure they'll fix up. So awesome, yes, you can upgrade this with a flamethrower. Flamethrower is also very useful against any enemy units inside buildings, but that was the same with the other company carriers. So upgrades to the Panzerschreck. As you can see, the blizzard is now in effect. So as I said before, the sniper, he's not really affected. He's like a Bear Grylls of the game. He can just do whatever the hell he wants. He can also blend in a lot more in the snow, and also when undercover. Such things being near trees, near buildings and stuff like that. It's the same deal with him. He one-shot kills infantry, but he's also very vulnerable to infantry and tanks, and pretty much everything, so you want to keep him hidden. Alright, so this dude now has flamethrower. See if I can recapture this. So yeah, when a blizzard happens, you mainly want to stick to nothing but tanks and snipers, to use them to capture, because they're the only ones that aren't affected. Ooh, so there's a few enemy soldiers here.
Taking Soviet fire! Enemy barrage!
So as you can see there, he's just basically raped any infantry that comes near him. But he's extremely vulnerable to tanks, this unit. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all the new features. There's just a recap. So there's the weather effects, the Russians, you get the new generals to the Russians as well. Also upgraded features in the game. You can unlock things through multiplayer. No Western forces. Oh, another thing is, with some tanks, there's a slight chance that when they die, the crew just run out and die somehow, and the tank will be left empty, and all you have to do is send a unit to go capture the tank, and the units will get in and they'll have 10% health. So if you're versing say an enemy with a really powerful tank and you want to get that for yourself. There's a slight chance that you'll be able to capture an enemy's, panzer or stug zealots that have that happen. It doesn't work with the Tiger tanks because then that would be way too bullshit, but they might change that in the future. And yeah, so you can basically capture your enemies' tanks and then repair them and use it against them, which is a nice nifty feature that they've added into this game. Actually, I'm going to send them over here, just leave my team to do that. So yeah, all in all, I strongly recommend this game to anyone who's played it before. To anyone who hasn't played it before, if you didn't like games such as StarCraft and any other real-time strategy games where all you had to do was just mass a massive amount of units and then just send it into the enemy's lines, and whoever had the biggest amount of tanks won the game, or games where like it's kind of like rock, scissor, paper with the units, where this unit's good against that one and that one's good against the other, then this is probably a lot better. And it focused way much more on strategy rather than the just massing your units. So all in all, this game's great. I'm happy that it finally came out. I pre-ordered this probably about over a year and a half ago, so it took a while to actually come out, but no regrets. It's finally out there. I'm not too sure what took them so long. It is still in beta for another just under 2 months, and then it'll be fully released. I think you can get a little bit of a discount if you pre-order it now on Steam, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So yeah, all in all, good game. I recommend it strongly for anyone who's played the other ones, and it's worth a shot.